I get this one comment constantly where people are asking me, should I sell my Bitcoin? Do you think we're at the peak? Do you think I should sell my Bitcoin and buy back later where it's going to be uh, a tenth of the price, a fifth of the price, 20% off, 30, 50% off? I always tell them, don't sell your Bitcoin. You're eventually going to feel really stupid about it. And I wanted to talk about this with you guys. I thought that this was a great topic for us to explore. All of our audiences definitely have the same question.
Yeah. It's really interesting that you just said people will feel really stupid about it, because I think that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid that they're going to feel stupid when there's a drawdown. Oh, I should have sold at the top, right? Like they're going to have regrets for not selling, and then they're going to have regrets for selling as well. Like it's like an ego thing. You need to like remove emotion. You got to just realize what it is you have, build conviction on the asset itself, realize that Bitcoin is inevitable, that it's sucking in all capital, and that if the price goes down, it's because the price of everything is going to go down because liquidity is being sucked out of the system. It tracks global M2 like crazy. And if you think you can time that, like, I don't know. I just always say good luck, to all the traders out there, good luck, because it's, we'd all be rich beyond our wildest dreams if we could time anything, right? So it's a lot harder than people think it is.
Yeah.
I think one of the bigger problems out there is that there's just so much information now, so much content about Bitcoin, about the stock market. I get emails all the time from people. It's like, I watched a couple of videos saying that YouTube or Bitcoin's probably going to drop down to 80K here in the next couple of months. Should I wait to buy? And I'm just like, okay, they don't know anything for sure. Like nobody has a crystal ball here. I think that the example that I think of when we talk about trying to time things and feeling like a dummy. So back in 2021, when I was living in the city, I had a rental home there. And that's kind of around the time I started learning about Bitcoin. And once you get to a certain point in Bitcoin, you're like, okay, I want to sell everything. I just want to hold Bitcoin. And so I did. And that's when the price was going up. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to cash out on this rental. I'm going to buy some Bitcoin. I think the price was around 60,000 at the time. So I sold my rental home. I bought Bitcoin pretty much at the top of the last cycle. And then a couple months later, Bitcoin was worth about 30 grand. And so I was always thinking, like, why didn't I just wait? Why didn't I just wait a couple months? Why shouldn't I have known this? Like, what a dummy. But then with a long enough time horizon on this, look 4 years later on this. So I bought it at 60, I felt like a dummy, but now I look like a genius because it's pretty much doubled since then. So I think that that's pretty much my moral here is like, just buy it whenever you have some free cash flow and just have a very long time horizon. And you might look like a dummy for a little while in the meantime, but in the long term, you're going to look like a genius.
Yeah, I was actually thinking the same thing. So this was a thought that I had this morning, where basically the floor price is set. I saw a tweet that said the floor price is set by veterans, and then the highs are set by the noobs. So the people who don't understand what they're doing, they get in through FOMO. The floor is set by people who really, really understand what Bitcoin is. So if you really think about Bitcoin being at highs at any point, all you're saying is that no more noobs are going to join the market.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I kind of believe in the continued adoption of this asset. And so I think that we've seen this throughout the history of Bitcoin. We've seen a decrease in the amount of drawdown. We've seen just basically the idea that, that floor price is continually going up. The hash rate is going up. These two things are correlated. And I just don't, I just think that, again, just timing it is just going to be incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is like, it's very interesting when I got started into this space, I was watching all sorts of different crypto stuff, and a lot of them were talking about, you got to take profits at the cycle. You got to take profits. And it's very interesting then getting into Bitcoin, understanding what Bitcoin is, hearing from other Bitcoiners, building so much conviction that the idea of taking profits no longer makes sense to me. Because what am I taking profits into? Am I taking profits into Canadian or US dollars? That's just a melting ice cube that I don't actually want. Like, so I've switched that around in my mind a little bit where I take profits every time I buy Bitcoin because I've earned that fiat and I'm taking profits into sound hard money that over time, yeah, you got to have a time horizon, a longer view time horizon, but over time it's going to appreciate compared to any other asset, in my opinion, but especially to dollars, which is what people are taking profits into, taking profits.
Yeah, and I think taking profits, we should probably differentiate here between spending and selling, right? Because if you're pretty much all in on Bitcoin, like I'm sure the three of us are, as close as we can be anyways to being all in on Bitcoin, then you're going to have to spend some because life is very unexpected. There's things that come up, whether it's a new water heater, whether it's a blown tire. When you're all in on Bitcoin, you're going to have to spend some Bitcoin eventually. So there is a big difference there between having to spend it for something that you need versus like selling it to have fiat, right? And so I think the thing that I think about, even going back to what Rajat was saying there, I think we should kind of drill into that a little bit because that's an important thing for people to understand in terms of like the floor, the foundation versus the ceiling there. So essentially, what Rajat's saying there is like, and maybe I'll let you do this because it seems like you're a little bit more familiar with the topic. But when somebody hears that, there, you kind of have to hear it a couple of times before it really sinks in of what's happening here. So the floor essentially is that like a person like me who's been in Bitcoin for 4 or 5 years now. I've put in the time, I've put in the work, I understand this thing. And the more time I put into Bitcoin and studying Bitcoin, the more conviction I have over it, which means that my floor price is going up and up and up for the minimum that I would sell it for. And I think that that's important because if you look at the price of Bitcoin, it's $100,000 today. But for me, if somebody asked me what's my price to part with all of my Bitcoin, it might be 10 million, it might be 100 million, it might be a billion. So that's kind of my personal floor. And I think that there's a lot of people out there who are in that same kind of spot. So then you think about like the maximum, and that's kind of what Rajat was saying there, that the maximum is what the people who are just getting into the space will pay. So the $100,000, if that's what we're talking about being the price today, that's essentially what somebody who's just getting into Bitcoin is willing to pay. They don't have any sort of knowledge. They don't have any conviction over this thing. That's what they're willing to pay for it. And then as they grow into it, their floor starts getting much higher as well. And so it's a really interesting dynamic there in that sense. And so I don't know, like, do you want to dive into a little bit further with that, Rajat, or do you think that that's sufficient?
No, I think I can go a little. Let's go a little deeper. So the way that I see it, when people who are new to this come in, they're FOMOing in. So what they're doing is they're putting in as much money as they can. They're borrowing money. They're using credit, and we know that Bitcoin follows the liquidity cycles. When more money is being added to the economy, when the price of money is cheaper, when interest rates are lower, more people are borrowing money and they're adding it to the economy. Of course, that's the incentive. And when we have the price going up, let's say for example at 108, 108K, everybody thought, oh, we're at the very top. But there were people who really understood what's going on. I don't even know if they thought that it was at the top, but they were thinking, oh, let's be cautious. Let's not go into debt to buy more. But what's happening is I was actually getting some messages from people who've never touched Bitcoin saying, hey, is it the time to buy? Is now the time to buy. That's what I mean by the noobs are setting the high, because what they're doing is they're just FOMOing.
Mhm.
They're FOMOing in, and they're buying as much as they can. They're borrowing as much capital as they can. And then what happens is once they're out of money, the price starts dropping.
Yeah, I do also see the landscape of buyers and sellers to be changing a little bit,
Mm,
where in the past it has been a lot of retail, like you said, Rajat, FOMOing in, buying, leveraging, seeing this asset go crazy in a short period of time, not wanting to miss out, right? That's the idea of
yeah.
FOMO, fear of missing out. But I wonder if, there's a lot of bigger money coming into Bitcoin now. It's kind of opened the game up with the ETFs, with corporate adoption happening, institutions, states, governments, pension funds, all of these different spaces. And I just wonder as well. And again, this is another reason to maybe think that the cycles are going to be shifting here a little bit, is because there are some changes happening. Um, I just wonder, are they going to be uh, selling as rapidly if there is a drawdown, or are they going to hold? Because that's what creates this volatility upward, is FOMO in, but kind of, I guess, the opposite, or FOMO out or something, is what creates the massive spike down. Because in 2017 we had that blow off top, um, which created a huge drawdown, right? It's kind of like, the higher it goes, the lower it can go in comparison. Um, so I just wonder if maybe the people getting into this space are realizing a little bit more. Institutions have to do a little bit more due diligence than just a random person that downloads whatever crypto casino and throws a few $100s in. But there is a little bit of degeneracy within Wall Street and institutions as well. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag. But I do think possibly that we'll see less of a downward cycle because of the people getting into the space now.
I think Wall Street probably has the biggest degenerates.
Yeah,
right?
With the most capital. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is totally different. Like, even if we look back 4 years, the last time we had a halving cycle, and what kind of played out from there, we're just kind of going through that right now, which is why it's the most exciting time in Bitcoin history is right now. But if you compare it to 4 years ago, like, who's buying this stuff? And you guys said, like, retail is very emotional. That's what causes the swings, is people panicking on the way up and panicking on the way down. That's what causes such volatility there. But if you compare today to 4 years ago, like, the Bitcoin that's being held today versus 4 years ago is much more less emotional, much less emotional. Like, the coins that Sailor pulls off, the coins that BlackRock pulls off, the coins that pension funds pay off when countries start buying it, those are going to sit there for a very long time. And the longer those stay inside of their possession and aren't on the market anymore, the volatility should inherently go down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as long as the demand keeps going up with the supply locked up, the price will rise. But essentially, or inherently there too, is the volatility will come down eventually, which is going to be good and bad for people. I mean, some people very much welcome volatility, like Sailor. He actually wants volatility for Bitcoin and for his company. Some people are terrified of it. It really depends where you are in your life, how close to you are to retirement, and what kind of needs you have there. So that's I got one more thing to share here, just in terms of this, because I want to think about this in a different way. But as I bring it up, Rajat, you got anything to add there?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the spending versus taking profits. Spending is more like improving your lifestyle. Taking profits is having the expectation that you're going to be selling and then the price is going to come down. Basically, what you're doing is you're making a bet that pieces of paper that can be printed out of nothing will appreciate in value over this asset that nobody can create more of. And that's the differentiator for me, at least. That's how I see it. If I'm taking profits, I'm thinking that Bitcoin's price is going to come down. I'm making a bet. I'm actually making an investment decision by selling it based on, I mean, really nothing. You don't know. Just being let's be logical here. 99% of people have no allocation. So more and more people are going to keep coming into Bitcoin for a very long time. I think decades. I don't think this is even close to done yet. I think people are going to be adopting Bitcoin for decades, and then they're going to continue to adopt Bitcoin because more people are born every day. A bigger base is being formed every single day, and the people who are born today haven't even lived a life without Bitcoin in existence. So
yeah,
and that's important too. Yes, 100%. Go ahead, Forrest.
I got a couple quick things there before you, Jor. You mentioned volatility decreasing. I think it ends up making a lot more sense to use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, which is what we're kind of talking about. Like, Rajat, you just talked about using Bitcoin. You could also say that's selling Bitcoin, but you're selling it for something else in exchange. It ends up making a lot more sense to use Bitcoin in that way as the volatility comes down, because then you're not like, I just talked to a family member and they said, oh, I don't want to get into it, it's too volatile. People are afraid of volatility. They're not sure if they use it, if it's going to be worth more or less the next day, right? There's all these things. And then the other quick thing I'll add there is that there's tax consequences to selling Bitcoin as well. So if you're thinking of taking profits and selling Bitcoin, you're going to get hit with tax. And then You're probably going to want to buy back in. You know, how great are you at timing the market with buying and selling? And then you have to take into account the tax consequence of those actions. You're probably just better off holding it. Let's be serious there.
Yeah, and it really does depend on what you need it for. And I think that people should get in, you know, if they're getting into Bitcoin now, they should kind of have that in mind, is like, if I'm taking $1,000 that I might need next month for groceries and buying Bitcoin, that's a problem. That's when you have to worry about the volatility of it. Whereas if I have $1,000 here that I'm taking from my pension, or, you know, selling some gold that I don't really care what happens with, then volatility doesn't matter. You're buying this, you're holding it for a long time, and it's going to go up, it's going to go down, but over long term, as we've seen with Bitcoin, is it's usually going to go up and to the right. Okay, so I want to share this with you guys, because I just kind of put this together today, actually. And I wouldn't say it's 100% relevant right now, but I just want to take the other side of this and say, you know, instead of thinking about selling it, I want people to understand kind of where we are in terms of the bull cycle, the halving cycle, in terms of President Trump, the U.S. potentially adopting the strategic reserve. And so before I kind of show this, I think that if you pay attention to the cycles, and there's a lot of people saying that Bitcoin might be 150 this year, 200, 250. If you look at just a normal cycle here, $2 million Bitcoin is not really out of reach. We wouldn't have to do anything like crazy to hit $2 million Bitcoin. And so I just want to take the flip side of this and say, instead of thinking about selling, just understand how rare this opportunity is that we have right now to be buying. So I kind of looked at, I'm going to use this as like a salary. So I've done things before where it's like, okay, well, if you got $10,000 to put in, here's the difference. But I wanted to do something that people like can relate to a little bit more. So let's say that you do a job for somebody, they give you $500. So essentially what happened there, you put your time and energy, you added value to this person, they give you $500. Or you go to your work for 2 weeks, you go to your job, after your taxes, after your expenses, you have about $500 left over. So that's kind of what I'm starting with here. For people who want to convert their time and energy into Bitcoin, I kind of started with like a $500 consistently. So at $105,000 Bitcoin, you get 476,000 sats with that $500 that you have left over for adding value to the world. Bitcoin goes up to 150,000. All of a sudden, the Bitcoin that you get for that exact same job that you did, the exact time it took, the effort that it took, all of a sudden now that's only worth 330,000 Bitcoin. And then you get to $1 million Bitcoin, which again is not out of the realm for this cycle here within Bitcoin. You take the exact same job, same work, same effort, you get $500, you convert it to Bitcoin, you get 50,000 sats for that.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you take it, I mean, one step further, obviously $2 million Bitcoin, you're getting 25,000 sats for it. So that's kind of how I just want people to start looking at this, in terms of like, if you are taking your time and energy, converting it to Bitcoin, just how much of an impact a strategic reserve or something like a normal bull cycle here will have on the ability to accumulate a lot of Bitcoin. So I just want to give like the flip side of that in terms of versus selling, like understand kind of, you know, there's some urgency here in terms of, if you're trying to accumulate Bitcoin, that's kind of where we are right now.
Yeah, you're saying basically stack as much as you possibly can at this point.
Don't think about selling, and stack as much as you can. That's my moral for this one.
Yeah, think about buying. You know, if the price goes down and you're still earning income, you know, like we're all young, we're still in our earning years. I don't think about trying to short Bitcoin basically by selling it. I just think about buying more of it as it goes down, and then in the next cycle, which is inevitable, you know, the highs and all that, I just will have more sats to have appreciated over that time.
That's it.
Buying mentality instead of selling.
You just gotta stack sats and stay humble. Is that the quote?
Stack sats, stay humble.
Great quote. That's it. You don't sell for paper. You sell for things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's kind of my thesis around Bitcoin is eventually, as you know, one of you guys mentioned the fact that there's only about 1% of the population that's in Bitcoin. So we can kind of tell, you know, all things consistent, where this thing's going to go. And to me, it's like with the stay humble, stack stats, with this whole thing, it's just get as much as you can, because I think that in 20 years from now, people are going to look back and literally give anything to be where we are right now, in order, you know, in terms of being able to get this right now. It won't be here forever. And so just understand that. Switch your mindset from being a seller, looking at the price, to a buyer. And, you know, if the price goes down a little bit, you're getting more sats for the time and energy that you added to the world. So
Exactly.
okay, well, this has been another edition of Three Canadians Walk Into a Bar talking about Bitcoin. So thanks for watching today. You can find all of our channel information in the show notes below. Thanks, fellas.
Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you wanted to support this channel, the best way to do so is by becoming a member. You get access to replays of my live streams, exclusive members only content. Depending on when you're watching this, that will be 21 steps to Bitcoin mastery. It's not available as of recording this, but maybe by the time you're watching this or into the future, I'll be releasing those. Also, you can support this show by checking out the sponsors, all linked below. Bitcoin Well, which offers non-custodial Bitcoin, which means you send them money, they send you Bitcoin directly with the lowest spread in Canada and the US. They have non-KYC options available. And if you use my link in the description, you'll actually get some free bonus Bitcoin. And of course, Stamp Seed, the best possible way, in my opinion, to store your generational wealth and your seed phrase, which is this small little titanium plate that is easy to conceal, fireproof, crush proof. You can throw anything at it, it'll weather it, and you can stamp your seed with their kit, and you can actually get 15% off of that kit by using my code BTC not crypto 15. Thanks again.